KSWV Radio 99.9 FM, 810 AM. We would like to thank Mr. Matt Bieber with the New Mexico Department of Health for joining us today. Thank you, Mr. Bieber, for being with us in our listening audience today.
Absolutely. Thanks for the chance to talk vaccine and COVID and everything else going on in New Mexico.
Great. Fantastic. Why don't we just start for a brief moment and find out what the latest status is? I checked the website this morning and I saw that we have 209 new cases. We're seeing an encouraging trend, but I know that there's plenty of work left to be done.
Exactly right. So the first thing to say, I think, is that we're headed in a really great direction. New Mexico is consistently first or second in the country in terms of the efficiency of our vaccine distribution. So for every 100 doses we get in the door, we get them out faster and use more of them than 49 other states or 48 other states. That's going great. We're really making steady progress on vaccinating the population. And at this point, more than 30% of New Mexicans have gotten at least one shot, and nearly 20% have gotten fully vaccinated at this stage. But as you say, we're not quite out of the woods yet. We're heading in the right direction. All the data is pointing in the right direction. It's plateaued a little bit. We'd like to see it fall a little further before it plateaus. But broadly speaking, there will come a point when we're out of the pandemic and we're more just in a phase of managing this the way we manage flu. We're just not there yet.
One of the questions that people have out there, and these are encouraging signs for sure, but we've seen some variants out there and some concern that states like Texas or Missouri that are just opening up their states, that there might be new variants. Can you talk us a little bit about variants for a second and what they are, because people may be hearing about them in the news, and how that concerns New Mexico?
Sure. So COVID-19, like viruses in general, mutates, and there have been any number of variations or variants since the emergence of the first one a year and a half ago. Thankfully, none of the ones that are concerning are a challenge here in New Mexico. We had our state epidemiologist address this about a week and a half ago on a press conference, and we just haven't seen the concerning variants cause a problem here in New Mexico. There aren't many cases, and where there are cases, they've been successfully isolated. They're just not translating into the consequences that some of us were a little concerned about. In terms of what other states are doing and the general pace of things, you're right. Texas is jumping the gun. I don't know anyone in state government who thinks what Texas did was wise. We're all eager to get there. We would all get there today if we thought that was the safe and responsible thing to do, but it's not yet. And I think you see that reflected in Dr. Fauci's comments and other national leaders just sort of saying, hey, let's not sacrifice all the hard work we've done so far to get to this point. Let's not just toss that out of the baby with the bathwater. Let's actually get across the finish line before we start celebrating. And so we're nearly there. And New Mexicans have shown extraordinary patience and grace throughout this. And we will be there reasonably soon. Any prediction is falsifiable. I'm no fortune teller, and nobody else in DOH or state government is. So, we're not going to take anything for granted, but we're heartened by the signs we're seeing.
Now, I need to ask about the ability that our state has had to lead the country. This is very encouraging that our state is the leader in our country in vaccine distribution, getting the shots into people's arms. I know we're waiting more inventory to come in, more supplies like every other state out there, but how is it that New Mexico has been able to do this?
Well, it has to do with a couple of different things. One is the first in the country vaccine registration system we have. So there's, as far as I'm aware, there's still no other state in the country that has a statewide registration system that allows users to go online, create a little account, fill in 5 or 10 minutes of personal info, and then get matched with vaccine at a local provider in their area when it's available. It's a much more catch as catch can, sort of topsy-turvy world for residents of almost every other state. It's a matter of chasing down doses and hearing rumors and gossip and calling 12 pharmacies like my mom's been doing in Pennsylvania. It's not a fun world to be in. And we know our system isn't perfect either. Lots of folks are waiting, and we respect that. We respect that folks have been waiting a long time and are eager to get a hold of a vaccine, especially seniors and folks who are vulnerable. We're doing our very best to get to them as quickly as we can, but that state system has saved this state a lot of pain and trouble. The other thing is we just have an awesome network of healthcare providers and volunteers across the state, in every corner, every town, who are stepping up to host local events and staff those events and be there to make sure somebody gets to the parking lot and somebody gets registered and somebody gets the dose and somebody gets out the door safely. That's a matter of thousands of people coming together in a real civic spirit. So it's been heartening to see.
We have received reports of the logistical support by the New Mexico National Guard in supporting the vaccination rollout.
They've been a huge part of this at staffing events and getting vaccine to every corner of the state through their transportation and distribution channels. And we were on phone calls with them every single morning with their senior leadership, and they are totally engaged, and we've been so thankful to have them on board.
I know that there are a number of resources that are available, and why don't we share some? I know that we are looking right now at the COVID-19 vaccine website. Tell us a little bit about this resource that is available for New Mexicans.
Sure. So if folks go to cv.nmhealth.org and then click on the vaccine option, they'll see this information. And what we've tried to do here is summarize who's eligible right now and then who's going to be eligible soon. So you can see those graphics that you're showing right there. The folks in the red boxes are eligible right now. In addition to that, educators and school staff are eligible as well, and early childhood professionals, courtesy of the president's directive last week. And then you can also see who's going to be next. So if you look at that phase 1B graphic, the folks right below the red box, those are the frontline essential workers. We have lots of frontline essential workers in New Mexico, and those categories of folks will be eligible for vaccine in the next month or two, we think. It would have been about a month, and now with the presidential directive to vaccinate educators and school staff, that's going to push it back a little bit. But later this spring, those folks will get vaccinated. And I should add, many of them already have been because they qualified either because of their age or because of their health conditions already.
Very encouraging to see these phases that are rolling out and the number of people that are getting vaccinated. I know there's another resource that the Department of Health has, which is the COVID-19 vaccine dashboard that we're looking at here, and an astounding 689,878 doses administered, Matt.
Yeah, I think that hasn't even been updated today, so it'll climb a little bit. And I also want to add that we should note the federal data as well, because those all get added together. So, and we're going to provide some additional categories of data in the coming days. When we do that, it'll be even more clear that it's actually closer to something like 900,000 doses administered all told, 30% of the state with at least one shot. And we're going to break that down. As folks may know, this is a really complicated operation. The state gets doses and we distribute them, but federal agencies like the Indian Health Service, VA, Bureau of Prisons, and Department of Defense, they also get doses and they also distribute. So we're going to make sure that stuff is reflected up here very soon.
What I have liked about the communication taking place with the Department of Health is that there are these resources available on your website that talk about how to schedule this appointment, the first step of registering at vaccinenm.org, the second step, third step, fourth step. But the follow-up communication that occurs via email and via text, I know because I've signed up and I get this information, I believe has been very beneficial to getting this rolled out so fast. So kudos to the communication infrastructure that has been set up. And then people can also see by county the number of doses administered. So I know that first we start seeing data on the number of people infected, the number of people that unfortunately have died, but now we're starting to see another set of data, those administered.
Exactly. And thanks for saying that. This is, as somebody who I'm focused almost entirely on the vaccine effort, I'm very aware that for a year now, New Mexicans have been getting a daily report of the bad news. And that also comes from Department of Health. That's about daily case counts and death counts, very tragic events. But we also have this daily report of good news. And it's good news that's balancing out the bad and eventually will ensure that the bad stops happening. So I'm heartened by that. I try to take some heart from that every day. And I appreciate you noting the communications cadence that we're trying to establish with New Mexicans, which is, we have over 700,000 New Mexicans, really almost half the adult population of the state registered for vaccine at this point. And we know that if you registered in December, it wouldn't be any fun to wait until March or April with no communication in between before you got your appointment notification. So we've been trying to communicate with folks, just keep them updated on safe practices too, like encouraging folks to not just show up at vaccine events without an appointment, because that creates crowds and that creates health risks. But also letting folks know how we're doing, progress we're making, and letting folks know that, for example, if they're registered with us and then they decide that they want to get vaccinated elsewhere through a provider that's not partnered with the state, that's great. Get your vaccine, wonderful. Just log back in and let us know you've done that so we can prioritize the next person.
We're visiting with Matt Bieber, Communications Director for the New Mexico Department of Health. I want to talk about providers just for a moment because we're hearing in the news about obviously healthcare providers, but now that there's different pharmacies out there, national chain pharmacies that are starting to participate. If someone signs up through the Department of Health website, does that mean that the Department of Health will connect them to one of these pharmacies as well, or how does that collaboration work?
You got it. So that's exactly right. The idea is that we want to keep this as streamlined as we can for New Mexicans. And so our expectation has been from the beginning that those pharmacy chains will participate with the state registration system. And the way that works, if I can explain just in a bit more detail.
Yes.
When providers partner up with us, what they basically do is log into the back end of our registration site and they just open up their schedule. And then typically we fill their appointments by inviting eligible New Mexicans who are nearby. And we're going to keep doing that. Obviously the president's new directive changed some things and we're adjusting there, but we want to keep making sure that folks get their appointments primarily through us. Now, to be clear, there are some providers in our state that are doing it differently. They haven't partnered with us. There aren't many, a couple dozen, who are running their own scheduling and appointments, local pharmacies here or there, local primary care physicians. And that's okay. That's what they're doing. So long as they're abiding by the eligibility criteria and vaccinating the folks most at risk, that's okay. But it makes it a little simpler for everybody, and it helps us collect better data on how far along we are and how close to our goals we are if we have everybody working through the state system.
Now, for someone that has not yet signed up for the vaccine, and obviously I know that there's a big effort out there to get the word out on how to do so. But I know that there is a simple registration process, isn't there?
Absolutely right. Vaccinenm.org. Again, vaccinenm.org. It'll take you to this site. It's available in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese at this point. And it really does take just a couple of minutes to fill out your basic info. We're asking for your age, your employment info, and your health conditions. And because with that information, we can figure out which phase you're in. We can figure out how at risk you are, broadly speaking, and how quickly we need to get vaccine to you. And once we have that info, it's just a matter of waiting for that appointment notification in a text or an email, typically from us. For folks who need additional support registering, maybe don't have internet access or aren't especially comfortable with the internet, we have a hotline as well where you can get registered. So you can just dial 855-600-3453. Oh, there it is on the bottom. Thank you. Yep, just call that number, press 0 and then 4, and you'll get connected to a call center that will register you. And if you need any additional accommodations like a ride to your vaccine or a wheelchair when you get there, well, then the folks you talk to will connect you to additional resources and help you get that support.
Thank you for that, Matt. Again, that phone number for our radio audience out there is 1-855-600-3453. Press option 0 for vaccine questions and then option 4 for tech support. We are visiting with Mr. Matt Bieber, Communications Director from the Department of Health. We have always appreciate the opportunity. I know, Matt, I see you on TV. I see you everywhere. I know you're very busy, so to give your time with our listening audience is very much appreciated. Any final thoughts that we want to share with our radio listeners out there before we conclude today?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you very much for the opportunity again. And what I'd say is, I think what we're beginning to see is, folks who are really eager to get vaccine have mostly, for the most part, heard about the opportunity and registered. Those that haven't, we absolutely encourage you to do so at this stage. We know that there's some portion of the population that still has questions, and we want to honor those questions and provide resources to help answer them. So if you have any of those questions about vaccine, you're on the fence, you'd like to know a little bit more, by all means, reach out to us and we'll give you the very best information we have, which is the same information coming from the national authorities that feel so confident about these vaccines. So want to make sure that those lines of communication are open, that folks are feeling respected and there's space for their questions. But Esteban, thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you and to visit with you.
Thank you, Matt. I know that this is a process that is continuing, and we'd love to check in with you as the weeks and months ahead come about as more and more New Mexicans get vaccinated. But it is encouraging. Yeah, still wash your hands, mask up, keep the social distance, and we certainly appreciate everything that you all are doing, from everyone at the Department of Health to all of our frontline workers to our New Mexico National Guard, everyone that's involved in this entire process. The volunteers just showing people where the gym is or where the shot clinic is that are out in the parking lots. We just want to say thank you to you, Matt, and to all of them. Thank you so much for the update today.
Absolutely. Good to talk to you.